All right, here we go.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to As Long as You're Breathing. And this is an Every Life is a Story event. And I am Mesha. And as you know, I love doing Every Life is a Story events because I truly believe that every one of us, our lives, they count for something. And we have every life has so many chapters in it, not just a story, but so many chapters. And I've been so fortunate lately to have been a part of this book, which let me figure out which way to go now. Yes, Michelle's got hers too. A compilation book with many ladies who wrote about finding their voice, and that is exactly what Every Life is a Story is about: is using your voice to express your life. I'm always saying, as long as you're breathing, you're not out of ink. So that is what I want all of us to do: is to write our own stories our way. And so Michelle Burks Hogan is one of the ladies who spoke up in this book about the difficulty that can be sometimes. And this is a lady that no one would think would have had that problem because she is Harvard educated. She's an educator herself. And so this is like, I know people that those of us who sit back and we're like, our stories don't matter. This is the type of woman you look at and you're like, oh no, she didn't have a problem using her voice. But that makes it all the more powerful when a lady like this steps up and says, yes, I did. And so that inspires those of us who also had trouble using our voices just to come out and say, wow, I need to use mine too. So,
Mhm.
Michelle, thank you for doing this book. And thank you for being on the
Um,
show
Thank you so
today.
much for having me today.
Yes, yes. And I love the quote that you began and ended with. So I definitely want you to cover that at some point. But wherever you want to start, girl, it's your life, your story. So let's hear about Michelle.
Maisha, I was a very vibrant, social young girl, and did a lot of talking, had a lot of friends and everything. But I had a couple of experiences along the way, and what I thought I was supposed to do if you're a child in trouble is to find an adult, tell them about it, so that you can get help. But
Right.
but those couple of times that I tried to do that, I was shut down as if I were not telling the truth, or as if I were making up, I don't know, making up stories, because I don't know why anyone would think that a young child or an early teen is going to make up things anyway. Where are you getting that from to make it
Right.
up? But
Right.
but when I wasn't listened to, it really kind of took my confidence away, and it kind of took my expression away. I no longer felt like I should talk to anyone. And then you may know as well, in our society, that when you deal with certain traumatic situations, if you are a child that is having trauma, it stifles your whole personality. It shuts you down. It makes you not want to. It doesn't even make you look in the mirror and love what you see.
Right.
And I think I dealt with that for a long time, you know. And it's funny that you asked me about, it's funny that you and I were talking about some spiritual things, because one day, just one day, I talked about in my chapter, I felt like I just heard like a voice that just was flooding my brain with all of the things that I was feeling. And it was just kind of like it had been a long waiting a long time to spill over. And when I started hearing all of these things, I just got a pen. And it just never dawned on me to do this before. I got a pen and I started writing, and I just couldn't stop. I couldn't stop writing. And I find myself, and even now, I don't know, I think I'm a fanatical writer. Like, I sticky, post-it notes are like my favorite lovely thing in the world, because I like to
Right.
write down everything. And so when I started writing, I realized that a lot of my expressions of my feelings were coming out. And it was things that was describing how I felt about the trauma that occurred in my life. And I realized that it's not just me, that others probably have these kinds of things happen too in their lives. And I needed someone to know that if this happens to you, first of all, come out of it, open your mouth, yell, scream, go to the top of a mountain, whatever you do.
Yes.
But if for some reason you find yourself in a rut where you don't do that, don't let it last. Don't let it go
Right.
on for long. Don't live in that space, and I wanted anyone who reads this chapter to know that you can come out of it. And if I did it, and I felt like I had a lot of odds against me, and if I was able to do it, then you can as well.
And I know the very first time it happened to you, you were like 5.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, and you talk about being this little girl who looked down and tied her shoe
Yeah.
because you wanted to hide the tears that were coming
Yeah.
down.
You're
And
right.
I so related with that because you were telling such a big girl thing. You
Yeah.
were being such a big girl. Um, and it was like, my heart just broke for you. And it was like, who in the world would make that up? What 5-year-old would
That
make that up?
exactly. Exactly.
And it was like, oh my gosh, this child is trying to do the right thing and is trying to reach out to adults, and at the very least listen to the child. Even if you're not going to do something about it, don't shut the
Right.
child down. Okay, so
Right.
you're not going to do anything about it. You don't have to tell the child that. you
Right.
know the child never has to know what you do with it, don't do with it. Treat the
Right.
child right.
That's what
you
I
know
was. Yeah. Yeah.
you never had to know what they did with it. Treat you right. But they
Right.
didn't even do that. You were treated badly. Like you had done the wrong thing. You were the
Right.
bad guy.
I was scolded. Right. I was scolded. And
Yes.
I guess it just in that moment, it was just two against one. And it was just too hard to fight back because a couple of people were standing there telling another adult, oh, that's not true. Oh, no, that didn't happen. Oh, she's.
Right.
So it just became a lot stronger. Those words became a lot stronger than the words that I had spoken. And so
Right.
it just became, you're lying. We don't know why you're lying like that, but you need to go somewhere and sit down. You're lying.
Right. And you were so small. And you
Right.
said, I didn't have the words. You know, um, that is
Right.
right.
Like
That is so
at that
often the
point.
case. Yeah, you were small. You were a little girl, and you'd use the only words you had, which were truth,
Yes.
and you'd use
Yes.
the only words you had. So, what other words were there? Where do you go for more words? What
Right.
other words are there?
That I didn't even know yet, probably.
Right, right. Yeah, given the situation, I'm sure you didn't. You
Right.
know,
Or even I don't even know a word to say. Well, let me defend myself. I probably didn't even know that word.
right, right. Hold on a second. They are saying this because they don't want to be caught. They're the ones who are not being truthful,
Right.
or
Right.
I mean, what do you say? So yeah, you said I didn't have the words, and so often that is the case. We are defenseless,
Yes.
and because we start out defenseless and we don't know what to do, we don't even we start with that against us already. That strike is against us already.
Hmm.
So we don't even know where to start. So we don't go and say, okay, this happened to me and I didn't know what to do, and get the tools. We
Yeah.
start not even knowing we need to go get tools.
Yes, that's true. That is true.
We start knowing, okay, I don't even know I need tools.
Yes.
You know,
and
we,
and, and at that age too, we kind of follow the lead of adults who are in
yeah,
charge of us at that moment, at that time. So you know they almost could convince me that, well, maybe I didn't see what I thought I saw, maybe I didn't hear,
sure.
and that's kind of like what you might think at first. And that is part of what stifles you, because then you're like, well, maybe I was imagining it, or maybe I was half asleep or dreaming or whatever. So let me just forget about it. It was me, not them. I'm the one wrong. So, you
And
know,
then and to have that self-doubt, though, then to have that layer of, okay, I know reality, but maybe I don't.
right, right.
Right. And to have that start at such a young age, because we
Yeah,
have it anyway, but to
yeah,
have it ingrained in us at such a young age. So yeah. All right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Very hard, very hard. And like I said, it was weird because I was a talker. I was a talker. My mom always tells me that I walked late in life, but that I was always talking. you know. And like you mentioned, I'm a singer, so we know we use our mouths
Oh,
all
yes.
the time, you know.
Yes. Right.
So that was out of character for the, for my personality at that time,
Right.
you know.
So it was years later, though, before you started writing, but you had many other events that happened that stifled your voice in between.
I did. And, some of them were really hard to think about or talk about. The one that I did put in the chapter was just about an experience I had with some groping from an adult. And,
Yes, that was, yeah.
and I know I was an early teenager, maybe 12, 13, 14, something in there. And so I'm still a child, even though I may have gotten taller and maybe I blossomed a little bit here or there, but I was still a child,
Yes, you were.
and it was inappropriate. And again, with everything that's happening with you and your hormones at that age of your life, that age and stage of your life, you really like kind of all over the place. I like this, I don't. It's right, it's wrong. You just don't know what to think. So
Right.
but I did find that courage. Like just for a second, I said, you know what? I'm just going to tell her. And I didn't realize that was someone
The
connected.
wrong her.
The
Yeah.
wrong her.
The wrong her, of course.
So, so that, oh my gosh, I can't even, I think the rest of the trip was just an absolute blur.
I'm sure. I'm
I don't
sure it
remember anything
was.
else. And, you know, I just remember crying a lot. I just remember crying a lot. And, that's almost my reaction today. If ever I want to say something or I want to get something off my chest and I'm not able to, or someone doesn't let me, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated, and I
Hmm.
just remember crying a lot. And I think because I was so young, I really, and I lived a pretty sheltered life, kind of, sort of. I really didn't explore means that were harmful to myself. Like I wasn't out there saying, you know what, I'm gonna abuse some substances or do it. I wasn't doing anything like that. So that's good. That protected me in those years when I was really frustrated inside, because I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of
Hmm.
frustration, and I had a lot of pent up. You know what it's like when you want to say something and you're being stifled. It's really, it
Hmm.
causes stress and trauma in your system.
Yes, it does.
So
Right. So you didn't experience, though, any physical illnesses or anything from this.
I didn't experience physical illnesses.
Good.
One of the things, and maybe this was a great response from myself, is I put a lot of energy into my education. and
Yes.
and I was like the greatest student ever, and I was almost fanatical about school and everything that had to do with school. I
Hmm.
poured everything I had into that. That was almost like my safe place, if you want to, say that
Right.
was like my safe place. And I felt like there I could express myself. I could say what I want. I could be in the school play. I could be in the band, in the chorus. I could be on the certain team in PE. And so that was my place. School was my place. Um, and I think I was able to express a lot of things that I had in me through, through music, because I had chorus. I was in the band, and I, like, went to
Hmm.
every concert. And I also never missed a day of school. when when I graduated from elementary school, I had this like perfect attendance award because I never missed a day. For like 2 years, I didn't miss a day of school. No matter what was going on, I dragged myself to school because that was my place. And so I really think that I didn't face my personal, if you want to say, issues, even though I was a child, probably really didn't know how to do that, because
Right.
I poured all of my thought process into the educational side and everything, and I'm competitive, and I'm just, that was it. That was where I put all of my energy. All of my energy went into that.
Well, and you were pouring out all of your all of your expression
Yeah.
into look what I can do. Look,
Yes.
I am powerful this way. I
Yes.
can express this way. Look,
Yes.
and look at me shine this way.
You're right.
They said I made that up. Well, would a girl that can do all of this have made all that up?
Yeah.
You know,
That's
would a girl who can achieve like this have made that up? You know, because that's really what you were doing. You were showing them. I mean,
I think
really,
you're right.
you were showing them. You know, look at all the things I've done. Look at how good I am. Look at how I can achieve. Look at all I do. Look at and you said I made that up. No, I didn't make anything up. You were showing them. You know,
I think you're right, and I think that that was a forum where it was okay for me to talk as much as I wanted to. And
absolutely,
I was the spelling bee captain, so I could talk as much as I wanted to. I had
absolutely.
the lead role in our play in fifth grade, so I could talk as much as I wanted.
Absolutely, absolutely,
That
because
was
you were
my
being heard. You were being
yes,
heard and you were being seen, and it mattered.
yes.
And no
Mhm.
one could tell you that it was wrong or that no, you were shining. And so
Yeah.
you were actually what you were doing. You were standing out and saying, you all said this about me, but look, it's not
Mhm.
true. You know, that's
Right.
what you were doing. You were standing up in your own way and saying, you all have said these things about me, and they're not true. They're not true. You have stifled me. You've shut my voice down. You said I was not telling the truth. You've made me be quiet when I needed to speak. And look at me. None of that is true
Right.
about me. You were showing
Right.
it through different ways, but that's not what you needed. You needed to say those truths.
You're right. You're right. I know they call that transference, right? And
Right.
I think later on in college, well, the higher you get in education,
Sure.
the less you kind of are going to be doing all of that stuff we do in elementary school.
Right.
And later on in college, it became less about all of those extracurricular activity things and more about me personally, because now you have to make decisions. What do you want to be? Where do you want to go? Just, some more personal things came up. And I think that's when I really started getting, it started getting harder because I didn't really know who I was. I didn't have
Right.
a real identity for me, you know, and
Because
I,
because you had been projecting everything outward and
yes,
not dealing with the inward
had
truths
not
that you needed
reflected
to.
exactly, had not
Right.
reflected at all. And I say this all the time, no disrespect to my parents. I believe they did the
Sure.
best they could do for what they knew how to,
Sure. What they knew.
what
Yes.
they knew, right? But I feel like there was a lot that I needed in way of guidance towards self. Like, who are you? And to your, I used to hear this saying, to thine own self be true. But I thought, but if you don't know who that is, then what are you true to?
Right.
So I think that the path from maybe the middle of high school all the way up until I had my writing moment was discovery. Me trying to discover, who is this person?
Right.
Who is this soul, and what does she do, and what are her pluses and minuses and flaws? And it was just me trying to discover.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think you said you had been a wife, a mom, a
Yeah.
teacher. You had
Yes.
been all of these things,
Yes.
and nobody was listening to you. Nobody was listening to you. And you were um, you were on a trip or something. You were
I was on a trip, and one of the things that was, I guess, a negative in my relationship with my husband toward the latter years, we're divorced, but toward the latter years of our marriage is that he loved who I was as a mother and a wife. He loved that. But
mm-hmm.
it was Michelle that he didn't really understand as much. I'll just say it like that. So as long as I was making 16 bottles and because we had twins at one point, making 16 bottles a day and changing the diapers and doing all, washing the clothes, cooking the meals, or just whatever, or wifely things, everything was good. But the minute
Oh yeah.
yeah, but
As
the
long as you
minute
were filling the role.
yes, I was, and I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, and that's
Supposed to
okay.
do,
Yeah, right.
yes. Yeah.
But then the minute I said, I don't know, I want to listen to a certain radio station, or oh wow, there's something happening over there. I want to do that. You should watch the kids while I go over here or be with my friends and we hang out. The minute I wanted to do stuff that would express and help to glorify the me that I thought I was, it became a problem. I was irresponsible. Other words came in,
Wow. Wow.
So
Do you mean you were like, you?
I was me. I was me. And I likened that to just what you were saying before, where I was stifled. Everything that had been happening before, I likened that to I could do the role and please everyone, but then as soon as I needed to satisfy and express myself, it just became, no, you can't do that. That doesn't look good. That's not acceptable.
That's not okay.
It's not okay. Right. Right.
Right. So that, I guess that is where your quote came from then.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Where,
And
where you say, my life could be over on any day, and I could end up leaving here, and the world would never know what I had to say.
yeah. Yeah.
Ouch. How many of us have felt that though? And how many of us do feel it still?
Yes.
I mean, even those of us who speak up
Yeah.
and are speaking up, how many of us have those moments when we still feel that way? Because we all, even though we're speaking up, we all have those moments where we feel like, where we let ourselves get put back in the box again, or where we let ourselves get silenced again. So how do we do this on an ongoing basis? So how do we start it? How do we get out of it? But
Right.
then how do we keep going once we get out of it? How do we keep going? Because it's not a one-time thing, and you're whoa, okay, this is it. I know how to do it now. Hot
Right.
diggity. I'm good
Right.
now. I know how to do this
Right.
every day now. I'm good. I'm good. This is how it works. And everybody's happy with me now. I did it one time and everybody sees this is how it goes. And they get it. They heard me, and it just, that doesn't happen.
No.
So how do we do this?
I think that everyone has to find their, I hope I say this word right, their niche, yeah. Yeah. Everyone has to find that. And I think that is a key for whether you're painting, dancing, writing, singing, even, I don't know, crocheting. There's so many different things. And I have a friend who hers is cooking, and she just loves to express herself. And whether she's decorating something or just, making a delicious dish, and the presentation is amazing. And I think that when you find that area that allows you to pour who you are out into it, that is another analogy I gave in my book. That is a way for you to get that feeling out of you, so it doesn't fester and mold and grow maggots in your heart.
That's the analogy you used, was how it was rotting. So
it was
yes,
rotting in me, and I had to get it off, and I had to get it out of me. And I think that everyone has to find that thing that allows them to get that feeling or those feelings out. And there, you know what, in this world, Maisha, there are millions of ways that we can do that. And for me, mine was writing. It is writing, it's singing, and it's all things writing, whether it's poetry, short story, whatever, singing. And I'm an educator, so I always have a lot of different things that I can get involved in with kids at school. But I think that was the way that I began to express myself. And I found myself, I was saying in another podcast too, that I was always writing about love. I didn't really mean to, but I said, oh, I'm going to write a poem, or I'm writing a poem, or I heard a line or two and I'm going to write that down, and then I'll make a poem around it. And when I started reading my work, I realized that I was writing about love. All of these poems are about love. Is that what I wanted? Is that what I needed? Is that what I lacked? I think so. Because I was equating that no one listening to me as no one loved me, no one cared.
Yes.
That's how it felt. That's how it felt to me. And I told my mom one day, and she was so hurt. But that wasn't my intention. But that's just how I felt. And then when you're young and you don't know certain things, like you said, you don't have the words, you don't have the emotions, and you're immature with your in your development, you just don't know.
Right.
And so I associated that with, you don't care about me, you don't love me, you know.
Right.
So
Right. Right. Well, and with that incident happening to you at 5,
yes,
that was such an early age, and that was an adult that did that. So it
yes,
doesn't necessarily mean that it was your mom that you felt didn't love you, as it
right,
was just you realize that, okay, not all adults love me. Not all adults are safe.
right,
Not, so you realize that the world doesn't necessarily love me. The world's not necessarily safe. And so
right, right.
so that was kind of what you took on, and so, but I understand, that what your mom heard, because that we hear it personal,
Yes, yes.
but I understand what you were saying to her. What you were saying was, I didn't feel love because I was silenced so young. But that is what happens to us.
It is, Mesha, and the perception, I think, that you can have as a young child, as immature in your thinking. To be honest, I think that some of the couple of incidents that I referred to, and maybe even a few more that I didn't, I don't think my mom ever even knew.
Right.
And because, especially, like, say for example, the thing at 5, after me feeling so
Sure.
belittled in that moment, it was over. I dare go home and bring it up some more and tell mom and have her call the counselors and check on, I dare do that, you know,
Right.
and
Right.
that seemed more scary.
Then just letting it go.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so I think that, yeah.
Yeah. So you went all of these years not using your voice to write your own life,
Yes.
essentially.
Right.
You wrote at a life. You wrote an outward life, but not an inward life.
Right.
So your husband was writing this role for you.
Oh
That
yeah.
was, yeah, it was not really. I'm sure there were parts of the role that you, of course, were happy with.
Of course. Of
You know,
course. Yes.
but there were parts of it that were like, wait a second, this isn't me. This isn't what I want, because somebody else is writing it for you. So then one night you get this brochure and an ink pen, and you just go to town. You just start just letting it go and letting it go and letting it go. So from there, what happens?
Well, first, let me say that I think, like you said, there are some parts of my life I love. I have 4 children. They are my
Sure.
babies to this day, even
Sure.
though they're adults. I think the important thing about you, like, saying that my husband was writing my story, is he was trying to write a beginning, middle, and end to my story.
Right.
And I'm agreeing that some of the things that were happening were parts of my story, but that wasn't the end of the story. You can't end my story. Like,
Right.
you cannot just say, here's how many pages your story is, and this is it, and that's it.
Right.
And so I needed an open-ended story, because I needed a place to express, to live my dreams, to see if that one worked and didn't. Well, I'm going to try that, because I've always wanted to do. I needed opportunities and chances and some flexibility.
You needed other chapters.
I needed other chapters,
You
and
needed all, yeah, you
yes,
needed other chapters. You needed your
yes,
own chapters.
yes,
Yes.
yes. And so and I think that I resented that anyone wanted to try to write my story for me. Like,
Right.
how can I let anyone do that? And I look at some people who may be in that situation where someone else is writing their story or controlling
Yes.
how their pages go, and I didn't want that. I didn't want that. I didn't want to be just, you could just look at me, meet me, and say, oh, you're this person, and that's how it's going to go for you because of where you've come from or where you are right now. This is how things are going to go for you, so I already know your story. And I'm thinking to myself, not so, not so.
Right. Right. You don't know me. I'm
You don't
Michelle.
Oh yes, you don't know me. Now, I mean, you may have known where I have come from, and you may know where I am at the time that you meet me, but do not try to predict where I'll be next.
Yeah, there's no doing that.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. And I kind of got mad, like, wait a minute, you can't close off my chances and opportunities for the sky that people are saying is the limit. If you
Right.
tell me I can only go this high, then what's the sky's the limit mean? So
Right.
yeah, I'm not sure if I answered your question or if I'm
No, no.
okay.
So you started writing,
Oh
and
yes,
so
yes.
then what did you do? So you started writing, and so the next morning, what happened?
So I started writing, and it was a surprise to me at first, because then I looked back and I was like, oh my gosh, I wrote this. I felt like it was a big deal. Like, I can't believe I wrote this
Yeah.
from just a feeling like we talked about earlier. I felt this spiritual move in my body and my system, and I wrote from that. And it was exciting to me, and I couldn't wait to get home, to get a journal, a notebook, or whatever, and do more and keep on going and keep on going. And and it just got exciting, and I realized I knew that I knew, let me say this, I knew that I loved words, again, mostly coming from my love of school and reading and writing and things
Sure.
like that. But I did not realize how in love I was with actually writing and writing poems and songs and expressions and feelings and articles or just whatever. I just didn't realize. And what I also didn't realize is that in doing that, I was feeling lighter each time I really got
Yes. You were
something.
getting rid of that density. You were getting rid of that
Yes.
heaviness. You were getting rid of all that stuff that wasn't you, and you were finding you.
And I don't have the page marked, but I also said something in the chapter about how I had, and someone was listening, and it was this papyrus was listening to me, that this piece of paper
Yes. Yes, you
that
did say that.
and it was saying, I felt like the paper was saying, I see you and I hear you.
Yes. I felt like whatever, um let me see. Oh, it's here somewhere. Yeah, I know I'm close to it
And I
because
also and I also said that when I started to let go, I found my way back to positive self-expressions again and again.
yes.
And I was checking back in to who I was and discovering that I had dreams and visions that needed to be fulfilled.
I love that you turned it to that you kept finding yourself back to positive self-expressions again and again and again. Because so often what we do is we get lost in the backstory.
Yeah. Oh,
I've done this. This
yeah.
is what happened to me. And we say it's the past, but we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
And we do have to purge ourselves of it. We do have to say it sometimes. Sometimes we need to do that.
Yes.
I won't say we don't. We do.
Yes.
But then say it and let it go. Let the past go and
Yeah.
decide, okay, so what is the future? And then talk about the future and look at the future. And so often I think if we can sum our past up in just a couple of sentences and say, okay, this is the awful thing that happened to me.
Right.
It was this couple things, and
Right.
make people go, oh wow, that was bad. And then say, and now, and
And
then
now,
boom, yeah,
yes.
and then go forward. Then to
Yes.
me that's a great story.
I
You
think so.
know, yeah. But and I've been so guilty because we didn't know. We
Hmm.
really didn't know. For years, psychotherapy taught us, you talk and talk and you get it out and you get it out and you get it out.
Right.
I,
Right.
I can't tell you how many years of therapy I've been in. And, it would be like I would move and you'd get a new therapist and it would be start at the beginning. And I'd be like, you've got to be kidding. You've got to be kidding.
Right.
I can't do that.
Right.
I
Right.
can't go through this again. I would say in the beginning. Okay. And I would try to give them the Reader's Digest version. And they would be like,
Mhm.
no, you can't do that because then I'm not going to understand the nuances. And I'm like, I'm telling you the nuances. This is the nuances. I can't go through this again with somebody.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't go through it again with you. I can't. Do you have the file? You have the file. Well,
Right,
no. Well,
please.
but they never write down the details because they don't. They don't put those things in there. And so,
Yeah.
but I found through like ancestral clearing and those kind of things that's not what we have to do. We
No.
have to acknowledge what happened to us
Yes.
and let it go and embrace what the truth is,
Right.
what the new is that we want. And
Right.
so when you said, you were looking ahead with positive
Yes. Oh
self-expression,
my
I'm
gosh.
like, now that's a woman I want to listen to. That's the woman who is writing you because it would be like when I started journaling the first time that I talk about it freely. I had 2 suicide attempts, and
Oh,
I was hospitalized, and the doctor, it was like, you have to journal, and I journaled my little heart out, and then it was read the journal, and I'm like, why would I read it? I poured it all out. I don't want to read the thing.
no.
Why would I read it? But that was the point, was to then go back through and read it. And I'm like, no, I don't want to read it.
I was there. I know what happened.
Yeah,
You
I
did it.
poured it all out. I don't want to read the thing. And so
Right.
then he would read it out loud to me, and I'd say, I know what it says.
Oh my God.
I know what it says. And so, but journaling for so long, that's what it was. It was like, now go back and you can flip back in your journal. And so what I tell everybody is, now when you write, be sure that whatever you write, it's fine to put the negative. I mean, we do need to pull it out, but
Yeah.
but end with something good. End with what your healing is. End
Yeah.
with the positive things, so that when you do go back, you're not repoisoning yourself.
Right. That
And
is
that's
so important.
and that's what I tell everyone as songwriters. And I get that there are going to be sad songs still. I get that. I know there are going to be emotional songs. He broke my heart, or
There are. I'm
or
just not going to write any.
yeah. Well, I'm not writing them anymore either, or I'm trying not to. Because, or if I do, it's going to be okay. It was sad the first couple of sentences, and now it's like
The
this.
third verse is happy. No
Right.
doubt.
Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to get everyone to do, because look at all the artists over the years that they're like, the authors, the actors, the song writers, the singers, the performers, that their lives were drugs and alcohol, and they imploded like they did. Well, they were reliving these tragedies over and over.
Yeah.
Every movie was a tragedy.
Yes.
Every book they wrote was a tragedy. Every song they sang was this big heartbreak.
Mhm.
And you can't do that over and over and over and over, because the emotion you have to put into it. And I love, like, Broadway. I love Broadway, Phantom of the Opera, and all of that. I love it.
Right.
But there has to come a point where you stop, just keep poisoning yourself over and over with the stuff. And I know I get some criticism from people. They're like, I like sad songs. I like that stuff. I like, and I'm like, if somebody turns the Lifetime movie network on, I walk out. I mean, I'm like, I can't do it. I cannot do it.
Not anymore.
No,
Not anymore.
I can't do it. And I'm not putting anyone down. I don't mean it that way at all. But we have to look at what we're putting into ourselves.
And Mesha, we each have to learn that about ourselves too. Just
Yes.
like what you asked me earlier about where do you go from there? And I said, well, everyone has to find that thing
Right.
that they do that expresses them. And you need to know, even in that space, what is the negative of that? Of
Right.
course, if you're painting and you lay out 10 pictures, someone's going to come along and say they don't like this one or that one or the other. And you have to already be prepared to say, it's not going to stop me. It's
Right.
not going to stop me. I'm not going to live in that space and be down, about it. I made a decision. I don't really know how many years ago, but many years ago, I made a decision that I was not going to waste a minute of my time being unhappy or being sad. I saw this quote someone wrote, it's probably on shirts and buttons or whatever, that said, For every minute that you're mad, you waste 60 seconds of happiness.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
refuse to do it. I refuse to do it. And I've been criticized for being too, whatever this means, too positive. What does that
I
mean?
don't know what that means either. I've
What does
gotten
that
that criticism
mean?
too. No, I'm told nobody is as happy as you are. Nobody is as
Ever.
joyful as you. And I'm like, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
I refuse. I mean, some people don't want the smiley, good morning, how are you? Some people don't want that.
I know. I
know.
know. I have people in my life who are like, I can't be that perky in the morning. And I'm like, okay, I just won't, I won't contact you till later.
Right. Like I don't, and I have made it my mission with children especially too to help them with their mindsets is to turn everything I say to them into, well, two ways I'm going to communicate with them. Either A, everything has to be in a positive statement, or
Right.
B, if I do have to, criticize their work, like, okay, you missed your capital, your period, or whatever. But first, you get a compliment, like, wow, your handwriting is really neat. And then I can say, I need you to go back and check your periods or whatever. But
Right.
that's how I communicate with everyone. I try my best to always have positive communications. If I send an email, I start with, hello, how are you? And then I'll say what I have to say. And to me, that's just a part of the energy that I want to give off. I want what's
Right.
emanating
Right.
to be one of, like you said, positive, upbeat, and it leads you towards healing. You're not going to believe that I'm telling you something if I don't give off the right energy to let you see that I've allowed that to manifest in my life. It has to come up through me before I expect you to believe that it works. Listen, it works. And so when you say, wow, she is happy all the time, let me go and read that chapter and see what she what she did.
Right. It can be, I can see that a situation may not be going the way it needs to go.
Right.
I can accept that a situation is, okay, that's going downhill fast. I can
Yeah.
accept reality. But at
Mhm.
the same time, I can say, that doesn't keep me from throwing positive energy in that direction. It could still turn around, or I can look for the positive side of it, or I can still try to find some positive way to look at
That's
it,
right.
or I can find some positive somewhere,
Yes.
and I just believe that,
Me too.
I honestly believe that you have to, even if that situation is going to tank, okay, then
Yes.
there's another then there's another way,
Right.
there's another way, or that situation tanked because that really was going to turn out badly if it had worked. There was something that
Uh-huh.
was going to be
Yes.
bad about that. It really needed not to work. There was a
So you
reason.
dodged a bullet, as
Yeah,
they say,
you
right?
dodged a bullet. I
Right.
mean, there's got to be a positive there somewhere,
Right.
And I'm one of those people. And I had a discussion the other day that was about, there's not a positive to everything. You can't just throw positive energy on everything. And I said, why? What are you hurting? What can you possibly hurt by
Right.
by by
Right.
throwing the positive energy on it? What
Right.
can you possibly
What could
hurt?
go wrong? Yeah.
What can go wrong? I mean, if it's already going wrong, what can you hurt? What can you possibly hurt? And you just may turn it around, or you
Yeah.
may make it better, or so I'm not a one of those pie in the sky people. I'm not a magical thinking person. I'm not one of those that believes you can just say, oh, sunshine, rainbows, and then everything is perfect. I know that we have to actually do things. I know that we can't get up in the morning and say, okay, I want the world to be this way, and just stand there and wait for it to happen. I know
Right.
that. I
Right.
know if I want a chapter to be written, I have to sit down and write it.
Right.
Because there are those out there who are espousing, okay, I want a chapter to be written today, and we know they're out there, though. We
Right.
know they're
Right. Right.
those saying those things. I'm not one of those. I know we have to really sit down and write the chapter.
Mhm.
But I also know that if I can sit down and I can say it's probably not going to happen, or I can say I'm having the worst day ever. I can throw all these negative things out there, or I can throw neutral things out there, or I can throw positive out there.
Positive. Yeah.
And so the more positive I throw out there, now bad stuff can happen all day. I can get interrupted. I can get a headache. I mean, all kinds of things can get in the way of writing it. And I can still say, okay, it's not looking like it's going to get written, but I can still throw the positive in there because it's more apt to get done if I keep throwing the positive in there. Now, will it make it happen? Not necessarily, but it's not going to hurt.
It's not.
It's not going to hurt.
It's not. And one of my favorite stories, as simple as it is the little engine that could.
Right.
And,
yeah.
and my interpretation of that changed as I got older. At first, it was a cute story, the train, whatever. And as I got older, I said, he made it up that hill simply because he thought he could. So
I think I can. He fucked himself all the way up that hill. He fucked himself all the way up that hill. And you know what? That was hard. That wasn't brain power. That was hard.
That was hard.
And
I told a friend before, in talking about speaking life to situations and positive thinking, I told a friend before that, if there is just the slightest chance that something I do is going to fail because of my energy, I want to eliminate that. Let me eliminate that part of it so that I can make sure that if it's going to fail, it's going to fail. But it's not going to fail because I only gave 50% of the positive energy or 70. It's not going to fail from this end, So, but all of the things that we're talking about, Mesha, became a new mindset for me.
It is mindset. It became
absolutely
a new mindset. And that is the thing, is our mind is programmed with what it already knows. It's programmed with, okay, the world is programmed to think a certain way. We're raised to think a certain way. We've had certain things happen to us. The mind is programmed with what it already knows. And so we have to make up our minds.
Yeah.
We have to decide,
yeah,
I'm not going to be conditioned to expect negative outcomes always. We have to opt out of the old programming, and we have to believe in something bigger than what the mind has already conceived.
That's right. That's absolute. That's absolute. And I think that starting the writing that I did and looking at it on paper and reading, well, I did read some of it because it was good stuff in some degree, because it started, it started being poems and, things that could be songs and, just rhymey things and stuff like that. And some of it was just expressions. I wonder why, or how come this, or whatever. But it's just started changing my mindset. And I think that I became freer to then be who I was, because now I didn't have, like you said, that density and that burden weighing me down as to me. I'm in stress. I'm worried. Oh my gosh, I'm just dealing with things, and I'm nervous about stuff. And I released all of that from myself. So then I would begin to see clearly, like, wow, I feel more like me, and the me that I am, the me that I know was always there, is this positive thinker who was just a happy, smiling, wonderfully exuberant person for the world, in spite of wherever things decided to turn.
Well, what happens to us is when we are young, our heart knows. Your heart knew as a 5-year-old. Your heart knew.
Mm-hmm.
The right thing to do is for me to speak up.
Yes.
And you did.
Mm-hmm.
And you were shot down. And your mind got conditioned to, this is what happens when you speak up. And so then later in life, your heart told you again, this is the right thing to do. And you got shot down again, or it was a bad experience. And the mind again learned and was conditioned, this is what happens. This is what happens. But then that night, your heart said, there's all this in you. This is you. This is you. And you started pouring it all out, because our creativity comes from the heart mind.
Right.
The mind is a computer. It doesn't have all that creativity. It has it's learned.
Yeah.
It thinks. It has what it's learned. And so you poured all your creativity stuff out, and you made the thinking mind get out of the way and let your creativity lead your way. And that's what we have to do is tell the thinking mind, okay, my creativity self knows what my life is. This is my life. This my heart knows. My heart knows what's right and wrong. My heart has a mind. My heart knows right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We know, we're guided, we feel it, we know. You know the direction that you want to go in. And the mind that's been told, no, Michelle, this is your role. That's your role.
Right.
No, it's not. This is me right here. This is me. And I'm pouring it out on this paper, and I'm pouring it out in this song, and I'm speaking it, and I'm saying it, and I'm living it, and I'm positive, and I'm creative, and this is me, and it comes from here. And that's the battle we have, is this heart mind balance all the time, because the mind certainly is meant to protect us.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. It's meant to protect us. It learned lots of lessons, and it's thinking, and it's protecting us. But the heart mind is the creative part that knows your story and knows what it is you're supposed to do, and knows all those nuances about you that are all those chapters you've got to write.
Right.
And so it's got to, all those programs you've got, it's got to get them out of the way. And that's the battle that we have our whole life, is overcoming that programming. And
Yeah.
and I'm so glad that you wrote the chapter and that you're doing that, because I can't, I can't imagine. I mean, it was just so, the words you said. What page is it? I lost the page. Your chapter 16, is that right?
6.
Six. Okay, I had the 6 right, didn't I?
Yes.
Okay. My life could be over any day, and I could end up leaving here, and the world would never know what I had to say. That is not okay. That is not okay. Your heart knew that was not okay, and you had to get those words out.
And I said this was the one I was also looking for, that I was symbolically speaking to a non-judgmental audience when I was
Yes.
writing. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. So what all do you do now? Do you do anything? I know you teach. Do you do any counseling or coaching or any other things?
I don't do anything like that. I'm actually I'm an educator. I work with elementary students during doing interventions, but I work with a program, our college and career readiness program. So I do get an opportunity to talk to students about their futures. I love that part of my job, to talk about their futures. I take them on college trips and college tours and things like that. So
Oh,
um,
that's wonderful.
it really is, and it's important, because I've seen students, from the ones who have no clue as to why we're doing this at all, to the ones who already have an idea what they want to do, and I try to coach into that as much as I can. Where no matter where they are on the spectrum, I try to coach into that so that they can maximize their opportunities right now, and I try to just show them the realities. Of course, I do see myself in a couple of, students, male and female. I do see that. Um, and we only, as a separated, person in their lives, like an educator, you can only do but so much. And we have
Sure.
guidelines, stuff like that. But I look for that. I look for anybody that I think may be exhibiting some of those same, I don't have a voice behaviors.
Right.
And I always find ways. I had a young man who his thing was drawing, and he was low in some skills, but he loved to draw, and I just let him do it to his heart's desire every chance we got. Hey, why don't you make the cover? Or why don't you draw a picture for the poster that we're going to hang up for science fair? And that it's important to me to help them find their voices,
Their way of expressing.
their way of expressing, right, who they are, and giving them that opportunity to do it.
Right. Okay, so now you sing and you write songs. So tell us about that.
I do. I'm so excited. While we were on the pandemic, I was sitting around looking at these 4 walls, and that was another layer of expression that I love to do, but didn't have time with the hustle and bustle of everything that was happening. And then I realized, oh, there's nothing to do right now. We're at home, school's closed. Let me write some songs. And I did.
Mm-hmm.
I just started writing. So then through a friend of a friend, I found out about someone who had a studio and he was willing to work with, even during COVID times, he was willing to work. He just had a list of guidelines, like one
Uh-huh.
person, this or that. So I started working with him and we started putting some things together. And I'm not saying it's going to be a number one top of the charts, whatever, but
Sure.
but it's still expression. It's still a message. I decided to turn one of the songs that I had written that had one set of lyrics into another song that talked about us all being, all of us, the world, everyone being beautiful, no matter what color we are, no matter who we are, we're all beautiful. And it's, it's one of those things, Naisha, that I thought about when I wanted to do something for the cause of Black Lives Matter.
Sure.
And I started thinking, well, what can I do? What can I do? Like, I participated in a march. Maybe I'll donate to change.org or whatever, but what can I really do? And I heard someone say in a totally different context that whatever we do in our lives, we should stay in our lanes. And I realized, well, I can do something in my lane. So I decided to write a song that had some words that just talked about how we're just all beautiful. Like, why are we not
Right.
embracing that? And,
Yeah.
you know, so, and I really feel good about those expressions. And I didn't realize in some ways some of the musical prowess, I guess I'm gonna use that word, that I had being on the other side of the studio. You're in a booth recording, but now that I'm on this side and I'm like, oh wait, put this here and move that there and add this beat,
So you're enjoying it.
I am enjoying myself.
Good.
And I made a decision. I think we already decided. I made a decision that I'm going to do these things that express me, that are me, that make me happy, no matter what. And I've already decided that no matter what anyone says, and no matter what kind of pessimism anyone ever tries to throw on it, I'm still going to go forth. It's in me and it must come out. It has to come out.
Because the price of keeping it in is
Much costlier than your side eye for what I decided to do.
well, as long as you're breathing is absolutely a forum for music. I mean, we have
Yes.
all kinds of music there, so you absolutely have to bring it over and let us have your music there. But
Okay.
you're also a blogger, right?
I started a blog again during the pandemic. I'm sitting around, no excuse now. You can't say you don't have time, you know. And so I started a blog, and my blog is called Conversational Peace, PEACE.
Uh huh.
And it's just, a lot of different stories about just different things that you may be wondering. But I started that, and it's something I've always wanted to do, and it's fun. It's, I heard I've heard some discouraging words about it, like maybe a couple of years ago. Oh, you got to keep up with it, you got to post you got to do this. I don't have to do anything. I started my blog,
Yeah,
and
it's a blog. You do what you want to do. It's yours.
if I post once a year, I just post once a year. That's what I
Right.
do.
Yeah, it's your blog. Yeah, it's Michelle's blog. Michelle
Yes.
posts when Michelle wants to.
Yes, it is.
People don't understand this blogging thing, do they?
I think not. I think not. So I put it out there, and you know what? I want the sky to be the limit, and maybe I have 20 or 30 subscribers now, but you know what? Who knows what? This time next year I could have 20,000 subscribers.
You might, absolutely.
Who knows?
It's conversational peace, PEAC.com.
Yes.
Right.
PEACE. Yes. Peace.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Right. And your email is michelle.hogan1027 at yahoo.com.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Yes.
And on Facebook, you're Michelle Burks Hogan.
Yes.
And this is the book. Let
Yes.
me figure out how to get the book up there.
Yes.
And are there any closing words that you have for us? Just whatever, take as long as you want to. Any closing words you have?
My chapter is called Talk About It. And those are just the words I want to say, that whatever is on your heart, in your mind, in your spirit, everyone's not going to be pleased. You have to talk about it. You have to get it out. I wrote a song called Talk About It, and it said, talk about it, let it flow, let the words start falling over. You've endured this, on your way now to a crown from your heavenly Father. Talk about it, let it flow. Ooh, what a big relief. And this is interesting, as because you'll like this part. As long as you're still here and you still breathe, talk about it.
Absolutely. As long as you're breathing, talk
I
about it.
know. I thought that was so
Absolutely.
interesting when you told me the name of your show. I was like,
Yes.
those go along with my words. So,
Absolutely, they do.
yes.
And you have to come back so we can talk about it more
Okay,
because
okay.
you're just absolutely a joy to have, Michelle.
Thank you,
So,
Misha. Thank you so much
yes,
for having me. I'm
yes,
excited to
absolutely.
be.
And we'll have to look over like some of your blog topics and have you on and talk about some of your blog topics
Absolutely.
because
Okay.
that's what,
Wonderful.
as long as you're breathing, that's what it's all about, is just talking about topics and modalities and just whatever anyone wants to bring forth. So, and absolutely, when your songs are out, we have to have your songs. So you have to come back, Michelle.
Okay.
Yes. So everyone, Every Life is a Story event with Michelle Burks Hogan, who is featured in our. I can't decide which way to go
I
here.
know, right?
Yes, yeah, I know. In the book that I was just a part of, and Michelle was just a part of, and we went number one in 6 categories at one point.
Yes, that's
Anyway,
amazing.
I know. So you all please check out the book and be stay tuned to hear Michelle's music and to welcome Michelle back on As Long as You're Breathing. Thank you all for joining us. Bye.
Bye.